when I recorded it and I didn't hear your characters until you put it together. So it was an interesting way to work. We've done stuff together before where I have heard your characters.
Yes, and I thought about that after the fact, and you did such a great job with the voices without knowing that, but I thought about it in hindsight. Previously, I used to you'd have either a voice sample or I was giving it to you to edit. So, so you didn't have any context to work
except the written word, but because you're such a good writer, it was all there on the page. Did you hear that?
Todd jumped, eyes growing wide. He grabbed my arm so tightly I could feel his fingernails biting into my skin. I'm sure it's nothing, I lied reassuringly. Why don't we climb into bed early and ride out the storm? I wriggled my eyebrows at him suggestively, adding a little extra twang in my light southern drawl for emphasis. I knew he liked when I did that. Wincing slightly, I then, with some difficulty, removed his clawed fingers from my arm.
Oh, I'm all for climbing into bed with you, sweet pea. But given my nerves, I'm not sure I'm up for, Danielle Palli, how are things in Florida?
Good. We're in a heat dome, so a little bit toasty, but I hear it's pretty hot there too, right?
Yeah, we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a heat wave, and now we've got another one. A heat wave here lasts a week, and because our summer doesn't last much longer than that. But it has been very, very, it's been over 90 degrees Fahrenheit in your language. And
wow.
We're not set up for it in the UK at all. We don't even put ice in drinks here. So air conditioning is a step too far.
We're very soft in Florida. We like our iced tea and our air conditioning units.
Yeah. So how are you staying cool then?
We just got our air conditioning, a brand new unit fixed. Basically, you take the dog out at 6 and then you don't go out again until after 8 o'clock.
Okay, that works. Now, remind me whereabouts in Florida you are, because I do have a problem with Florida geography. You're on the left-hand side,
You're looking at the map, the left-hand side. So we're in Parish, so I'm near Tampa, St. Pete. I mean,
you're in Paris.
You could drive to the Gulf and go for a swim. Mm-hmm.
But you're Parish. Okay, your town is Parish, and St. Pete would be the nearest big center.
St. Pete, Tampa, Bradenton, Sarasota. I would say Bradenton's probably a little closer and closer to the Gulf of Mexico, the west side.
Right.
Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. And you're nowhere near Naples then?
A few hours drive. They're south. Why?
Because I've started working with an author called Karen Moss, or KL Moss. In fact, one of the audiobooks I did with her came out today, a book called Radiance. And I've done, is this the second or the third book with her? I think this is the second, but she's booked me for another 2. And it just seems that Florida, there are a lot of authors in Florida. I've worked with authors in Florida before, but I've picked up a new one as well. I was wondering how far away you were. Because you might want to meet up and talk literature or something. I don't know. Writing.
I will look her up. Are you interviewing? Did you interview her already?
Well, the book. Yes, I've done one with her before when the last book came out. So that'll be on my YouTube channel. But I will be contacting her tomorrow to organise one in a couple of weeks. So there'll be another one coming up for this book that's just come out.
Oh, yeah. So I'll email her. I'll watch the interview and email and see. Some authors are like me and they're happy to connect, and others are even more introverted and they're like, nah, I'm good.
They are. Because as you know, every author I work with, I offer them the chance to have a chat because I like to find out what goes. I find writers fascinating, and they're dotted all over the world, and I really enjoy having a chat. But some turn it down. They do, I'd say. And it's funny because I've got, on my website, I've got some of the audiobooks, and I've got them in different categories like murder, mystery, or romance, or whatever. And some categories, it's like every single murder, mystery, almost every single author has done an interview. And in some categories, none have. History.
Oh,
yeah.
That'd be an interesting psychological study.
Yes, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, and I don't know why that is, but I'm so glad that you've agreed to chat to this one because we want to talk about this book. Just before we do start talking about this latest book, as well as being a best-selling author, you're quite the polymath. You've got lots going on. Do you just want to fill us in for anybody that's watching Danielle Palli for the first time?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So yes, I do a blend. So I have a coaching practice. I work for a couple of employee assistance programs in the mental health space. And then I have my own practice. So I have probably about 200 people on my list rotating now. So I have a lot of one-on-one calls, hence the glasses, so I can keep seeing. And then the other half of the time, I have a podcast that I work on with Dr. Roger Landry, Bright Side of Longevity. Writing books, as you know. I'm working with several authors now to help them with developmental editing their books. So it's a great question because I also put out meditations for Insight Timer, and I do presentations for some different companies on coaching. I did one recently for coaches, and it was so cool. I had like 260 coaches from around the world join me. It was sponsored by a company that I work with, and it was playfulness in coaching. And some of the people were like, it was like 2 a.m. where they were. And I'm like, that was an honor. If somebody's going to get up at 2 a.m. to hear what I have to say, that was pretty cool. So anyway, so long and short of it, everything about my life's mission is around health and well-being. And you see it in the book, Heartbreak on a Deadline. So it's just basically, how do you find me? Is it through the books? Is it through the meditation? Is it through the coaching? The message is there. It just depends on how you want to receive it.
So they are all complementary. They're not completely diverse, exercises or achievements. They are all meshed together in different ways. Yes, they're all coordinated. They're all in some way about, as we know, this one's particularly relationship focused, but it could be about career. It could be confidence. It could be mindfulness, just the different facets of life. So to the outsider looking at my work, they're like, oh, wow, she's a flake. But in my mind, it all ties together. It's just, like I said, however you want to receive the information based on how you need it. And that's what makes branding myself so difficult, because a lot of authors are like, okay, how do I market myself as an author? But I'm like, how do I market the brand that's Danielle Palli Health and Wellness in these different facets? And that's completely different, which is where the struggle is. But surely each one is another, to use a buzz phrase, each one of them is a sales funnel to another, isn't it?
It could be. It really depends, right? So I do some voiceover work, not just my own books, but for different companies under non-disclosure agreements. So they're like Fortune 100 and 500 companies. So I can't tell people who they are, okay. So they're not going to feed. When I'm coaching for certain companies, I can't buy my books. I can say, go ahead, listen to a free meditation, but I can't sell them anything. So
right, okay.
Yes and no.
Yeah, I see. Okay, but wherever possible, yeah. Okay.
I did have someone find me through my YouTube channel. They had watched one of them, and they actually hired me for relationship coaching. I coached them, and then their partner noticed a difference. So then the partner came to see me, and then they came for couples coaching, which actually happens. That's been happening a lot more often than not. One person will come to me, and it'll either be, they're having problems. They're like, how can I communicate better? Or my favorite, how can I fix that person? And I'll say, well, I can't help you fix that person, but I can help you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And is that usually the problem? That when someone comes and it's a relationship thing and they want you to fix the other person, it is always them.
It's usually, I would say, well, yes, when they want you to fix the other person, I would say it's not ever 100% one person. Unless it's a really, like you and I had talked about this a couple of years ago now, unless it's like abusive, narcissistic, something really off the charts.
Yeah.
Both people have a something. But yes, when somebody says, help me fix that person because, and it's not always self-centered. Some of it's like, I really want to help them, but they're offering help in the way that the other person doesn't need. So learning to be supportive isn't just, I support you and here's how I do it. It's asking, what do you need from me? So anyway, that was a mini coaching moment. Sorry.
No, it's nice. It's nice to know. It's nice to know we're dealing with the real deal, not just a best-selling author, but you know your stuff. Okay, let's talk about this latest book, or the latest book that I've worked on with you, because I haven't worked on them all, but we've done a lot together.
Well, at some point, I want to go back to the other two. There's two that we didn't do that will happen at some point.
Okay.
It just didn't work out at the time with like budget and different things. So put a pin in those because the ones coming up, I think, are better.
Okay.
Anyway.
For anyone watching this, when I say we've worked on them together, I've just done some voices. Danielle has written the things and come up with it and done all the work, and it's her vision and her thing, and I've just come and done some voices at the very end of it, and then claimed all the credit for anyone listening, going, oh, these two do a good book, when really it's all you. But anyway,
I wouldn't say and we did. I don't know if you remember the Ned video that we did for YouTube, or it was a voiceover. So Ned, the necessary evil demon, you did one for me. I did a few on my own. I actually want to revisit that at some point. That's the third one, but that will be for the future because he's a really cool character. I just haven't figured out all of what to do with him yet.
Okay. So let's talk about the latest book. This one, Heartbreak on a Deadline, latest audio book that you and I have done. Latest audio book that I've been lucky enough to be included in the audiobook version of. Let's just get that straight. Okay. It's a wonderful book, and it's set in London, England.
Yeah.
And you and I met up in London. How long ago was it? Was it a year and a half ago? It was a summer.
It was actually 2024, and it was.
Oh wow! It was that long ago.
Back. Yeah, 2 years. Because it was
feel
around
like
your
that.
birthday. I won't say which one.
Was it 2 years ago? It was a big one with a zero in it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it was actually after I got back that was like the final piece because the book takes place in much of it in England, in Ireland, and also in America. So it covers 3 countries and 5 different holidays. So yes, but a lot of the stuff that is in there, because we had the chance to meet and go for lunch, and you showed me around different places that ended up in the book. That's why when I hired you for the audiobook, and this is a character simply going on some bad dates, I was like, don't worry, you're not in this. I didn't write you.
I must admit, I was terrified all the way through it.
No,
just in
you
case.
weren't.
No, I was, just in case I went, geez, I hope that's not me. But I never had that experience.
You couldn't have because Julie was nice enough to let you escort me to lunch, and you took me sightseeing, which I am grateful for. And it was a good time because it's the only time I've gotten to meet you in person, and we had been working together maybe 3 or 4 years before we'd actually met. So
yes, we've talked this way before, but this was the first time we met in person.
Yeah,
and it was a lovely day.
Yeah, and I didn't want you in any way think, oh, wait a minute, she's not writing like me there, and they're awful. So you're like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but so that trip was part of the research for the book.
In reverse. So a lot of times when I go places, I'll take as many pictures and as much notes as possible in case there's something. Now, when I went to Ireland, I had an idea in mind. That was 2 years prior. This one, I had an idea, but it came from a few different places. So when I met you, I wasn't doing research I was like, oh, I'm just going to meet Graham for lunch. Like, it didn't occur to me till I got home. I was like, Hyde Park, Ivy, I could use that.
Yeah, and that's what happened. Well, okay. So the inspiration for the book itself, where did that come from?
About 20 years prior. So back in the day, I worked for a metaphysical magazine. I was staff writer and calendar editor. And I had I'm happily married now, but at the time I had just gone through a major breakup. Now, it was a short relationship, but it was one of those passionate, he's the one, we're going to be together forever. And it crashed and burned pretty much as quickly as it started. And I won't go into too much details, but at the time, they had a sponsor of this metaphysical place, and they decided to use my story as a feature article. So they're like, please write about your heartbreak. And so they sent me to this metaphysical center, and I went for different services. I talked to a medium and an energy healer and stuff. And I wrote, because they were sponsors for the magazine. So I wrote this article. So that was the first thing. It came to mind as how can I take this story and blow it way out of proportion? Because that was just one little article that maybe you're like, that seemed like a strange thing to ask someone to do, like right while they're in the middle of it. But I was like, okay, how can we make it much worse? So fast forward, and then I promise you get me talking and I keep going. As a coach, 20 years later, I'm talking to people who are my age, who've gone through that experience, mostly women, but not exclusively. And they're saying the same stuff that I said back then. Like, oh, I'm too needy. I'm not smart enough. I'm not funny enough. He left because I'm not successful enough. I expected too much. Or people always leave. Like all the negative stuff that you could say, I'm hearing other women say. And I was like, oh my God, it's like looking at me from the past. And that's when the two started to come together. Like, I need to find a way to kind of tell that story as fiction, and also put it into, like, I was already doing YouTube videos to kind of talk about things, but to explain to people kind of what was going on there, because it's never 100% a person. Like I say to them, I'm telling you, there are some times where I'll say to somebody, I'm telling you, there is nothing you could have done differently. It would have ended the same way. And then they actually breathe a sigh of relief, like, really? I'm like, yes, there is nothing you could have done differently. It still would have ended based on what you're telling me. And they're like, and there's a sense of relief because they were blaming themselves for it. And then the other part of it is sadness. Like, does that mean we're not going to get back together? Because there's that little hope that they're going to work it out. And I said, I will never tell you that it's not going to work out, but it's not going to work out unless the two of you put in the work. If only one person's doing it, it's not going to happen. So anyway. Yes.
Wow. So that was the origins of the story. So Sibley's based on you.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I think all the characters have little elements of me. Even Vidalia, which I have the joke of her being the bartender everyone's telling her you're not a therapist, but she really likes psychology. So I think they're all in there. And the reason I brought in, say, England and Casadega and things, I thought if I brought in, she's going on all these dates for the holidays, and she's supposed to pick the winner at the end for Valentine's Day. So I was like, okay, if you're blending holiday and you're blending like travel adventures, and it has a metaphysical aspect, so Casadega is supposed to be the psychic capital of the world. So I did drag John and our puppy there to Casadega for that was purely research. And so actually in the story, when they're going through the haunted museum, and I don't know if you remember this, it's just a little part where there's a couple with their dog. That was John and I and Simone.
Okay. I do remember that little bit, yeah.
Because we went into this psychic store and they were doing aura photos for the dog, and I'm like, I know this is cheesy, but I'm like, we have to get her aura. And they're holding up a treat, and she's like sitting, and John's like, well, that's a treat. That's it was the green chakra, full of love. And John's like, put a stake in front of me and my chakra will shine too.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
So you even made a cameo in your own book.
I made it, yes.
Wow, I love it. I had no idea. Is there something that, like, because you always have very strong female characters in the books, the audiobooks that I've narrated with you.
Yeah.
Is there do you find that they've all got something in common?
I'm curious if you have noticed something in common, or if not, I'll tell you.
For me, they have an underlying strength, but also insecurities that make them real. I would say that's why. What would you say links them all together?
Beautifully said. I would say when you look at Lucine in the data collectors, and
Yeah.
you look at Rue in the music mystery series you and I worked on, If I Didn't Care, and now if you look at
Yeah.
Sibley, they're all like emotionally stunted.
Yes.
They may or may not be orphans, but they had very little guidance growing up or got bad information. So they had a
Yeah.
poor support system. Probably limited emotional intelligence, like hypersensitive, didn't trust their own things, said all the things I told you sooner. When somebody breaks up with, or ends a relationship, it's obviously because they're unlovable.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of start there, and each character, as they progress, they find the support system, they learn to trust themselves to make decisions, and they become more independent, and they learn who to trust out there. Like, how do you know you can trust this person versus who's not a good idea? And in
Yeah.
all of them, they get involved with people who are not good ideas
Yeah.
before they find the good idea.
Yeah. I've known actually some of Julie's friends had very, I just put it down to very poor taste in men, but they were with people. There's one in particular, and I just couldn't stand him. And I'm like, this guy's just, can't she see that? I don't know why some women don't see it. I think blokes see it in other blokes easier than women see it in blokes. And I don't know why that is.
People gravitate towards what's familiar, and they don't even realize they're doing it.
Okay,
You know,
so if they had an abusive parent or something, they'll look for her, and they'll be attracted to maybe an abusive partner.
Right. I very specifically say I'm a relationship coach. I'm not a licensed therapist, so I can't diagnose people. However, there are lots of patterns that come up. And sometimes they'll come to me, they have been in therapy, and they'll say, yes, I had a mom or dad who was a narcissist, or I had my ex was, and they end up with bosses who are, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't realize
I know
like
I did.
familiar. Yeah. So it's familiar. It partially feels safe in some weird way. It feels safe because it's a known enemy. And if
It feels like home. Yeah.
And if you have any kind of insecurity, like it's got to be me, and if you have at all, like you said, if you have a narcissistic boss or anything, that they can see that insecurity, they're going to neglect it.
Yeah.
Right. And make it worse.
Yeah. And in your therapy, do you give people techniques so they are less vulnerable to people who want to take advantage of them, or do you just get them to search inside themselves to get in a better situation?
So, and I have to say I'm not a therapist, because therapists will watch this and I don't get me in trouble, which is why Vidalia says this, by the way, because there are so many people I hear who say, oh, I could be a coach, I could be a therapist, I give advice all the time. I'm like, that's not what it's about. So I do kind of give them, I try not to give too much advice. So coaching, you're supposed to help them tap into their wisdom. But yes, for the purposes of growth, I'll say, one of the things I'm noticing is this, and I'll ask them, for example, without saying, because I don't diagnose, somebody's a narcissist, someone's abusive, someone's just a jerk. I'll ask them, what are you getting out of this relationship?
Yeah.
Oh, we have fun. We have great discussions and things, and and they have companionship. So they're like surface level stuff. So I'll say, okay, well, what's harming you in this relationship? And you'll hear things like, well, they have no empathy. They can't discuss any, like if there's a problem, they're like, why do we have to discuss these problems? Why can't we just have fun? Commitment issues, like if you walk into the room and they're hiding their phone, well, what's that about?
Yeah.
So,
and do people not see them as real red flags?
I believe that people either make excuses for the person because they think, maybe I just expect too much in a relationship. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm just being paranoid. And if you're with somebody who is doing things that are, say, manipulative, a little sneaky, they're going to turn it back on you. Like, why are you being so insecure?
And make themselves the victim. What do they call that? Darvo, don't they? Is that the deflect?
I'm not sure.
There's one called Darvo, and I forget what all the initials mean, but the first one is deflect. So if you challenge them, the first thing they'll do is they'll deflect, and then they will turn it round and make themselves the victim, and they'll make your reaction the issue. Yeah, I see.
I don't know that.
They'll turn it around.
I think of it as gaslighting.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, that, where somebody will literally be told, well, that didn't happen. Like yesterday never happened. Like,
Mm,
what are you talking about? You're just lying.
mm,
And they'll make the person, and if they've done a good job, like if you're in a really toxic relationship and the person, say, has done a good job of getting rid of your support system and isolating you, which in this book you'll notice that the Dahlia's partner in the book, Todd, doesn't like her to go out. So the way she sees her friends is they meet her at work at the bar. So here she has all this education, but she's not seeing like how isolated and how she knows nothing about his friends and his life. So if they've
yeah,
done a good job of isolating and the only voice you hear is theirs, after a while you silence your own voice.
yeah. She is a great character, by the way, Vidalia. I love hearing, well, reading her stuff because I didn't voice her stuff, but I had to read it to get the context, and because I had characters who were reacting to her and working with her. Because when just so everyone knows, when I recorded and I didn't hear your characters until you put it together. So it was an interesting way to work. We've done stuff together before where I have heard your characters.
Yes, and I thought about that after the fact, and you did such a great job with the voices without knowing that, but I thought about it in hindsight. Previously, I used to you'd have either a voice sample or I
Yeah,
was giving it to you to edit. So
yeah.
yeah, so you didn't have any context to work off of.
Except the written word, but because you're such a good writer, it was all there on the page. I mean,
Well,
so
thank you for that.
but it's true, because if it had been hard for me, if I'd said, I would have messaged you and said, I can't work out how to do this. You're going to have to, give me a bit more or a sample or something. But it was all there in the writing, and it usually is. I mean, it's getting close now to 300 audiobooks, and
Wow.
it's always, always, always in the writing. If if somebody's thinking, they'd like to write something that could become an audiobook, it has to work as a book first. Because if it doesn't, an audiobook's not going to save a bad book or improve a book, really. It's just going to give it an extra dimension. It's just another way of enjoying it. That's how the thing works. It doesn't make it any better.
And one of the things I'm learning, and I did it in this book and probably in the next book, I'm not going to write an audio version because that would take ridiculous amount of time. But what I started doing is getting rid of the he says and she says, because during the
Yeah,
beta read, a reader is like, when it goes back and forth, they'll make a note, who's talking here, who's talking here. They
yeah,
can't always tell they can tell if somebody has a certain way of presenting or certain words they use. But if
yes,
somebody's saying, yeah, no, okay, like you need a little he said, she said. But in the audiobook, I don't have to differentiate between you and me. They're going to
yes,
know who's
yeah,
talking. The hard
yes.
part was when I had a scene where there's like 4 women in the scene, and I was trying to flip between them, and I'm like, man, this is hard.
Yeah, yeah. I always like it when there are characters. If I'm doing two characters that are and I'm doing both characters having a
Yeah.
conversation here, two blokes like in your book, I always love it when one of them's on the phone, because I have a filter that makes the phone effect, and it means I know that they sound different. Because I always worried, have I made these characters sound different enough? Because if they sound too caricature, I want them to sound natural. So I have to put a bit of me into it, no matter what the accent is. But I always worry, am I doing too much, and is it, coming like Daffy Duck or something? And then I'm worried, am I doing enough to separate them so they don't think it's the same person? But I don't want to do too much. But when I've got one of them on the phone, I know. You definitely know that these
Right.
are different. Which one's which? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And I
But
don't know. I
well,
don't know how
I
many
didn't
narrators
have.
actually use that technique to have a phone filter. I don't know. I haven't listened to audiobooks where that's in it, apart from the full cast ones.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just Anyway.
So yes, and I actually liked. I think it was If I Didn't Care, where I had a little bit of background noise and music. I didn't do it with this one,
Oh,
but possibly.
you worked hard on that. That is something I would not attempt. I would not try and do all the different atmospheres because I know I would get so involved in it, because I'm very auditory from before I worked in radio. But from all the years in radio, I would be changing the amount of echo in a room. I know I would. So I deliberately, I draw the line at a telephone sound effect filter. And if I'm doing aliens or something, I might
somebody
put
out in space.
Yeah, or a Paul stretch on to give them maybe a computery type sound or whatever. I draw the line at that, but I don't do because I'd be doing every footstep. I'd be a total Foley artist, and it would take me years to do an audiobook instead of weeks.
And I used it casually in If I Didn't Care. And you actually, one of my favorite things that you did was they were singing at a restaurant in the Greenwich Village in the book. And you actually did a woman singing, a man singing, like you had like a multicast of people singing.
Yeah.
And I emailed you. I was like, did you get Julie to like sing part of this? Because you pulled it off so well. I thought there were men and women singing. And that was all
I do that. I multi-track. And if ever an author I don't know if yours has ever done this, where you've got a character and after it's likely 2 or 3 characters and they say something like, yeah, that's right. And it says, they all said in unison afterwards. Yeah, I will go back and layer them so that each character says it. They say it in unison. I will do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have I done that with one of yours yet?
You've done that with most of mine. This book,
Oh, okay.
I did not. I chose who was speaking because I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Oh, you didn't want to get involved in that. Yeah, so, I see.
And this one, I would say the editing for me has gotten I remember the If I Didn't Care that was the first one where you and I edited half, and this is the first one where I edited the whole thing.
You did,
and it's gotten a lot faster, and the recording's gotten faster. And you were helpful in that, in the audio setup and things like that. So thank you for that. But yeah, it was getting faster, but it's still time consuming.
And did you do it? Did you edit it as you went, or did you record it and then try and edit it after the fact, like in post?
I used to edit after, and that took me like 3 times as long.
Yeah.
So now I edit as I go.
I do too. I edit as I go. Yeah.
And what I used to do, like with your voice, I would cut pieces and then pull them in, and I'm like, that's too much work. So now I just drag your track over my track.
Yeah.
Where I find where they're, and when I'm delivering it, I purposely leave a space so I can see where it is and then line it up. And that went much faster.
Yes, that'll do it. Yeah, that is. You did a great job on it too, as well. It's production wise, it's all pretty damn slick. Well, let's get into we've enough of the technicalities. We've touched on narcissism, and there are a lot of narcissistic characters in the book, aren't there?
They're definitely narcissistic patterns, right? So I want people to look at it and see the pattern. So and I think it was Dr. Ramani. I know you're familiar with her work.
Yeah, she's great.
Leading expert on narcissism. And I believe she said in an interview that 1 in 6 people are probably narcissists. So there's a lot more than I realized. In fact, I had a conversation. The last time you interviewed me, this was 2 or 3 years ago now, we were talking about it, and I didn't have experience. And I started noticing in the last 2 years in particular, because I'm doing a lot more with relationships, I'm talking to so many people where I'm hearing the pattern. Yeah. And I'm like, what was your dad like? What was your mom like? And I'm hearing, and I'm like, did they ever get diagnosed that you know of? And sure enough, that the therapist said, yeah, they probably were communal narcissist or something. So anyway, I keep answering your question in a really long about way. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's good.
So yes, all the characters not all are narcissistic, but they all have the tendencies. So either way, someone's a jerk.
And now, for anyone who's not familiar with the ins and outs of narcissism, it really doesn't matter. If someone's an arsehole, they're an arsehole. It doesn't matter
right.
what label you put on them. If someone's behavior is bad, if they do bad things, if they do manipulative things, it doesn't. You don't waste your time going, I wonder if they're a narcissist. Just go, no, that was wrong. That's all you have to do. And we know what's right and what's wrong, and we know how it feels and how people make you feel. So it doesn't even matter it doesn't matter if you put a label on it or not. It's just, It is helpful, and it is quite interesting once you get right into it. But that's about
it Yeah, it is helpful. And it is also important to know, though, if somebody does have a diagnosis, they're not going to change,
No,
right? So somebody could have those tendencies and really decide, you know what, I don't like the way I've been living my life. I've been too mean to this person. I'm going to go to a
it's
therapist,
never
and they
going to
be
happen. And the
legitimate.
thing is, with any kind of narcissistic relationship, when you hold out until you know that. You hold out. You think, no, I'm gonna sort this out. I'm gonna change them. And in my case, and I don't want to get into too many details,
Yeah.
I had a couple of narcissists, and there was one who I thought, but I didn't realize that at the time until I worked it out. But before I worked it out, there was one who I thought was the problem, and they were actually, yes, they were a narcissist, but it was another person in the thing that was the real problem, but they were so covert with it, I hadn't spotted it. But then once it all made sense, then I could deal with it, which the way to deal with it is zero contact. That's the only way to deal with them. But anyway.
And well, and what's interesting, and I can't say too much because of client confidentiality, but there's also different levels. You can have
Yes.
one that's a covert who's kind of annoying and unpleasant, but you
Yeah.
may or may not be able to have some kind of relationship with them, but lowering your expectation, knowing they're not going to change.
And having
To
strong
the other
boundaries.
extreme, where you're coming up with a safety plan because you're worried this person is going to physically harm you. So you've
Yes.
got to plan your escape. It's really scary if I ask someone where I suspect that something's going on, if there was physical violence. They'll always say, oh, there was one incident when somebody was drunk. And I'm like, one incident and you stayed. It's like,
Yeah.
but you can't always tell. And that's, and in cases where it's malignant narcissism, and actually, without giving too much away, you kind of can tell from the beginning that Vidalia's boyfriend Todd is probably malignant, because
Oh, yeah.
he comes across as just a you think he's kind of a jerk, but you think he's a bumbling guy. He does not really mean any harm. He's just dumb. And then you hear some of the things he's doing, and it's a point where, what would have happened to this character if she had stayed with him?
Yeah, because he was so, it was all about, and, the lack of empathy, which you mentioned earlier. And he, it was about himself, protecting himself and all the rest of it. And that comes through loud and clear. And she couldn't necessarily see that at first, could she, in the book?
Not until they're invested. And I think many of us, now not every love bomber is somebody who's narcissistic, not every, or just a bad person. Like, for example, we have Shaman Theodore in there.
Yes.
Obviously not a narcissist, a love bomber, just probably an anxious attachment style. Like, because he very quickly, like, oh, he fantasizes about this future with her from the get-go.
Yeah.
So he's not, but he's got his own thing. He's got his own stuff going on, where I'm like, wait a minute, he's planned out their whole future off of one date.
Yes.
And then it's, and as you'll see, his affections, and that's the kind of person who can't be alone. So they're more likely to pick a bad relationship versus actually waiting for the right person. But I hope the people develop a little bit of sympathy for him, because he's
Yes.
annoying.
Oh, yeah. Yes, but once again, deep down, he's insecure.
Yeah.
Even, he's got these other issues going on, and but he's a great character, by the way. Yeah, he is. He is fun, and alongside the romance, there's a mysterious death. This book has everything. What made you decide to weave a mystery into what was really a romance?
So this is really bizarre. We had a Cat 5 hurricane. This was a couple years ago. Was it 1 year, 2 years? I think it was last year. I don't remember now. We've had a few. But anyway, the last one that we had, I think it might have been not long after, in 2024, 2025. I have to look it up. But anyway, we're standing in the living room, and I'm hearing pop, 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 pop on the roof, sounds like a popcorn machine. And I'm like, John, what is that noise? He's like, those are the shingles getting ripped off our roof. And that, is pretty darn scary. But then I heard this scratching across the roof, And I'm like, is that a branch from like flying debris? But in my head, I'm like, it's a dead body. What if it's a dead body? And then I was like, what if it were a dead body? Could a dead body get up there during a hurricane? And so I ended up building in the mystery part. And Vidalia, it's good. Not only did we work in her romance, but she's strategic in teaching people things without seeming heavy-handed. But if you notice, when she and Sibley end up sharing an apartment, they're the odd couple. She's like
Yeah.
really messy and loud music, and Sibley's really neat and organized. But yet they end up figuring out, okay, you do the laundry, on this day, I'll do it on this day, or I'll go grocery shopping here, we'll have dinner. And they have no trouble, like a couple, figuring out who's going to clean what and be responsible and make decisions. Like,
And
why
is that
why can't actually married couples do that?
But is that from an experience you had? Did you have to share an apartment with somebody like that and have that happen?
The closest I did, what's funny? I did share an apartment one time with a man, and surprisingly, so
Well, you
I
weren't in a
rented
relationship with the man. It was just
No,
sharing.
I wasn't in a
Right.
relationship. He was married with like 3 kids, very happy, but he was a construction worker. So during the week, he would stay in the back room, and I was renting from somebody, and this was like her brother-in-law, or there was some relationship. Sweetest guy, never really thought there was nothing bad going. I trusted him. But it was kind of funny because he's burly and he's like a smoker and he's like a construction worker, but yet he was the most polite and cleanest person. Like, he would tiptoe in, during the week when he'd come in from work, and then the weekend he would go home to his family. So he's only there like maybe 3 or 4 nights during the week. But it was the easiest relationship. But of course, he also wasn't there. So I can't say that I lived with somebody, not for any length of time. Like, I've had, before I moved to Florida, I'd ended another relationship. Wow. I see I have a lot of experience in ending relationships. But anyway, where I lived with somebody for a couple months before moving here, but not like they had to collaborate.
Right. I see. Right. So that part of it, was it actually based on The Odd Couple?
And what I hear from people, and honestly, anytime you're married, like John and I had to figure it. Now it's kind of funny, like, we're emptying the dishwasher and one's emptying, one's filling, like, we don't even have to think about it. We just do it. But, the first couple of years of marriage, it's like, didn't you say you were going to do this? Could you take out the trash? You said you were going to do this. Can you do, and now it's kind of in sync, but it doesn't start that way. And that's the other thing that people seem to think, whether it's a friendship or a work relationship or a romantic relationship, that it's just going to work or it isn't. And they don't realize you're two completely different people.
Yeah.
You have to put some effort into it.
You have to learn to dance. Yeah. Because I don't. Julie and I, we just kind of slotted into that kind of stuff, though.
From the beginning, never any. So
I don't remember
for us,
that, unless she has a different memory of it, and I was just completely ignorant that there was a disaster going on, and she gradually got me trained the way she wants me. Unless she did that, which could have happened, I don't remember.
She did such a good job training you that you don't remember.
Yeah. I know a lot of my single clothes disappeared. There was a grey pair of shoes I was looking for once, and she said I threw them out about 3 years ago when we first got married, and she did a lot of that. So there was something going on, but we kind of just. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying. But I don't remember us having to, divvy up particular jobs. Because I there's no way now and again Julie goes on trips to see her family in New Zealand, and she always has to leave me a cheat sheet on how to work the washing machine, which makes me sound like a horrible person.
No, I
don't normally mess with it.
Yeah. No, so we each do our own laundry, fortunately, and he's very, very tech savvy about things. But I do leave a list for the pets. Pets. This one gets this medication. This is the kind of food. This is how much of the food. It's like, even though we both take turns, it's like when you have all the responsibility in the house for a week or two, you forget stuff. because there's always seems to be something to do. So, I mean, I'm glad that you guys fell into a routine. I think for us, it probably took 3 years before it was just a natural sync, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Where he has a lot of stuff like servers, computers, and things. And I liked everything in its place. So, it would get to the point where if the kitchen counter, and it is in our old house, was like covered with stuff, I would collect it. I'd put it inside his office when he wasn't there. And then he didn't notice. And then I'd collect a little more and put it in the office. And then one day he's like, wow, I got to clean out this office. This is a mess. So I never threw anything out because I didn't think I didn't know if anything was important because I don't know what half the stuff is. I just sort of moved it. And now I just we've gotten so lax that it's like, if there's the counter, it's like, I'll just move all of it to one side and I'm just not going to look at that side.
Right.
But I think I've gotten a little more lax too. And I don't think you can have 4 pets and not give in a little bit as far as, we have furniture that's scratched up. It's pretty interesting.
Is that cats will do that? The dogs wouldn't? That's
no, I think Simone's pretty good. she sheds everywhere. But she drops her toys everywhere. But yeah, I think the cats are a bit worse.
Yeah, I think cats are a bit worse for damaging furniture. It's funny the amount of flats we used to rent, and you could have a cat, but you couldn't have a dog. Cat way more destructive than a dog.
Right.
I don't know why some people say cats are okay and dogs are not. I don't know, but we did rent a lot of places.
Depends on probably the breed. Like Simone doesn't. She's a mutt, but she doesn't chew things up. I've heard stories with bigger dogs where they're like eating a can of soda. I mean, they will eat whatever. And there
Rafa's never really, apart from a box of tissues once, he's not really chewed anything up. He's great. Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, he's really, really good. He's a sweet, sweet boy. Very sweet dog. It took him a long time to come out of his shell because he's a rescue from the Canary Islands off Africa, a Spanish island. And we don't know his background, but it took him a long time to, we were first 2 years, I think, we were like noticing more about him all the time as he relaxed and just got into it. Yeah. He didn't actually play with toys and stuff for the first couple of years. Now he loves it. He's got a little basket full of toys, but he didn't, he just needed to feel safe and loved and he's
our
wonderful
cat
now.
Yeah, we talked a bit. Our cat Tyr, we adopted him when he was 2 years old, and I think he was abused in the last household that had him because he was afraid of John for a couple months, and the only time they warmed up is I had to go away for work, and the cat was like, well, you're the only human here, I guess you'll do. And then they started to bond, but he was the same way. He didn't play. Now he plays. Like, we have to learn what toys he likes. So that took a bit. And I swear, because he's so smart, and I told you we had to change the doorknobs. Because at one time, if I heard like a squeak in the door, I would think that it was him. But we had to change all the doorknobs because he would open all the doors and the cabinets because he just wanted to see what everything was.
Were they round doorknobs?
They were hooked. So he could just bat it. So now they're round. So he will try, but he can't do it.
Well, we had a cat when we first got married. His name was Tigger. He was a tabby, and this is in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And when we first got him, he was a kitten, and we both worked all day. And so we'd go out to work, and we would just lock him in the bathroom with a dirt box and some toys and stuff. He's just a kitten, you know what I mean? And then I was also playing in a band at night. And on a Friday night, I worked at an oil refinery, but I would go from the oil refinery, get changed, and we would drive for about 3 hours to a place called Kaitaia in the north of New Zealand. And we'd play in the pub the Friday night. They'd put us in a motel and we'd play the pub the Saturday night, and then we'd come home on the Sunday. So she wouldn't see a Friday morning, I'd be off and she'd see me again Sunday night. Well, I rang her from when we got to the motel after we'd done sound check and everything, and she said, Tigger's locked himself in the bathroom. And what it was, he'd got used to when we were out, he could jump up and grab the door handle and turn it, and walk around the house because he didn't like being trapped in the bathroom. But below the main doorknob, there was another round knob which locked the bathroom door. And he turned the wrong one and locked himself in.
How did she get him out?
She rang her dad and he came round, took the lock apart. Yeah, that was the only way she could do it. So then I get off the phone and all the guys are there, we're almost ready to go to the gig. And I said, oh, the cat's locked himself in the bathroom. They're all like, okay. Yeah.
Seriously, no, he actually, and he taught the other cat to be able to open the pantry. He'll climb under, there's pots and pans that I've just don't use anymore because he's decided that's his new home.
Really?
But I swear to you, there's a section that I'm like, okay, I guess I don't need to use that section of the kitchen. But I swear when he would start with one of the other cats, like he'd start with Bagheera because they're two boys and Bagheera's older. If I said, no, knock it off, and I'd stop him because I didn't want him to hurt Bagheera, who's like 14 years old going on 15. When we first got him, he would look, like he was saying, he'd look scared, like I'm going to get rid of him. Like, I swear to God, I'm like looking into his face and he's like, you're not going to get rid of me, are you? That's what I'm hearing when I'm looking at this cat. So I feel like for the first couple of years, he thought something really bad was going to happen if he got chastised for doing something wrong. Now he's like, whatever. I know you love me.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I can't help it. Yeah. So let's get back to the book. A wonderful story. There's a murder in it. There is dating. There's narcissism. There's an interesting boss dynamic who's really only at the beginning and the end of the book. But there is an interesting. Oh no, he's on the phone, isn't he? In bits. So
Yeah.
there's an interesting boss dynamic there. What are you hoping that listeners take away from the story?
I want them to know that First of all, you grieve in your own time, because this whole story starts off on this adventure where the premise of sending her on these dates during holidays, and holidays is this volatile time where people feel really lonely, and expecting her, he expected her to not only fall in love, but on the deadline by Valentine's Day, because that would be really good for sales.
For the magazine, yeah.
And then if she broke up, that's okay. We can regurgitate it for summer fling or something. So I want people to know, grieve in your own time, because people will say, oh, just get over it, just move on. But also realize that the caveat to that is a downward spiral, right? So if someone's going through years and years of their thoughts, their emotions, just they're never going to get out of the spiral, then I would say talk to a therapist. But in general, people need time to figure out what they want for themselves, because sometimes they get so enmeshed in the relationship that they don't realize that there's two independent people who have their own dreams and things, and there's them together. I hate the term getting back on the horse, because right away everybody in this story says to Sibley, oh, you just, after 15 years and knowing him for how long, you're just going to go and find somebody else overnight. I always tell people I would advise taking a break, because what happens then? You just transfer your feelings from one person to another. You don't have time to figure out yourself and what you expect in the relationship. And if you don't know what you want in a relationship, you're going to get caught up in somebody else's dream. Yeah. So taking the time to figure out, it's really interesting when I ask people, well, what's your goal in the relationship? And they're like, what do you mean, what's my goal? Because your goal at 20 years old or 25 might be, well, I want to have a family. I want to have 3 kids. I want to go to church every Sunday. And I want, the family to come over for holidays. Well, if you're marrying somebody who's like, I don't want kids, I'm an atheist, and I want to have time to travel, you got to really think about your goals.
You've got to be on the same adventure, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. And a person in their 50s and 60s, maybe they're like, I don't really care about marriage. I just want somebody that I can count on. If I have health concerns, we can look out for each other. We can travel together. Maybe you're not looking for the one, but you're looking for a different type of relationship. So figuring out what you want and what you expect, right? Because the thing that I always hear is, women say, I'm expecting too much. there's realistic expectations and unrealistic expectations. So I have them list everything you want. One blue eye, one brown eye, go for it. $5 million, in the bank, and lifts weights every day and is like jacked up, whatever. Write the everything. And then you look at, okay, what's the superficial stuff and what's like the important stuff, which a lot of this is in the dating companion at the end of the book. And they'll start to say, okay, well, I don't need somebody who I can't even think of who's like super jacked right now, but somebody who's like Adonis. Maybe I don't need that, but I need somebody who takes his health seriously. I don't need somebody who's like Jack in the book, like a multimillionaire, but he should be financially secure. He should have a job. Job is good.
Yes. You don't want a bum. Yeah.
So you kind of, figure out what are the things that are the most important, are like honesty and shared values versus, oh, he has to like all the same movies I like.
Yeah. No, that's a silly one. I mean, last night I actually picked a movie. We sat on the couch and we started the movie, and about half an hour in, I looked at her and she went, "You're going to bed, aren't you?" I went, "Yeah." It wasn't doing it for me, even though I'd picked it. She loved it and told me all about it this morning and told me what happened. What was it? I can't remember the title. No, it was called Hail Mary. It was about an astronaut who goes into space, and it's Ryan Gosling. Okay. And Julie really, really liked it. And I, after half an hour, thought it was a bit...
Are you sure it wasn't Ryan Gosling that drew her in?
Maybe.
Could be.
No. I don't know. I don't know. But the thing is, it didn't matter that I wasn't into that movie. Yeah. Because I could just go to bed. That was it. And she really, really enjoyed it. So I don't know why people insist on somebody must like the same movies. Having said that, we do have and that was an example.
That's just one random example. Like, people expect them to be exactly like them, like the same music and things. So
yes, by and large, we do like the same music. But we always joke that our references now are so specific because we've lived in 3 different countries, and we've got very specific references that we can't share with other people because they would have no idea what we're talking about. But it might be a reference to living in Sydney, or in Australia, or it might be something when we lived in New Zealand, or it might be something when we lived on the south coast of England, or a reference to Liverpool because all my family are up there. And to have all of them mixed in. It doesn't.
But that's a good thing to have in a relationship. Yeah. That builds having that kind of intimacy, and we talk about rituals.
It's 39 years married in October. Yeah. So it's been 30, a while.
Wow. Yeah. So not only do you have those inside jokes that nobody else is going to get. You have inside stories. Half the time I will say something, and before I finish it, John will finish the sentence, and he'll finish the sentence in the way that I would have finished the sentence. So, like we have the stupid reference. I don't even like the movie all that much, but Frozen, Disney's Frozen, where he goes, "We finish each other's," and it's supposed to be sentences, and the character says sandwiches. So now when I say we finish each other's, he goes sandwiches. I said exactly. So you have those little jokes and the rituals, like you guys, I assume, during different holidays, or even in more like rituals during the day. Like there's a certain time where somebody maybe brings the other person some coffee. Right. So you have all those built-in things that bring you closer together. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. No, we do. And those things come when, well, I think, well, I don't know. I've been very lucky to find, I was very young when I met Julie. Julie was very young when I met Julie. I was 23. Julie was 17. No, I was 21. I got married at 23. Now, I was 21 and Julie was 17 when we met. I was 23. She was 19 when we got married. So we've been together a long, long time. We knew very early on that we'd found each other. So, yeah.
I think that's remarkable when it happens.
We even met at a
I'm glad
wedding,
it
which
happened
doesn't get
for
much
you.
more romantic, you know. It's like we make people sick.
I
Yeah.
think, I mean, I'm happy the way things turned out, and I do believe that part of why, I imagine that if people who knew me in my younger years found out I did relationship coaching, they would be like, "You, like, really?" Because you end up learning. You learn because of you screwed up, and you get better
Yeah.
at it. So I think that John and I appreciate each other more because we met at 38 and we've been with had all these other experiences. So it's just appreciation. I think we let the small stuff go, and we appreciate, like, no matter how many times he'll do something in the house, he'll say, "Hey, thank you for doing that," and he'll say, "Thank you for dinner," and we'll like express things that, like, we appreciate about the other person. We're vocal about it. It's amazing. Sorry, I didn't mean to turn this into a lesson. How
No,
many
you
people
can.
they'll say, I think my partner's thinking this. I think they're thinking, I think, and I'm like, did you ask them? They're like, I can't ask them that. I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
So people don't think to just ask.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the strangest thing, isn't it? But we get that now and again when, you know, she would hear me make a noise or something. Like I'd slam a window and she'd go, "Are you angry?" And I'm like, "No, the window's just stuck," and it would literally be like that. And I went, "And besides, I don't communicate like that. But some women do. They
Yeah.
slam things or doors, whatever." But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, you shouldn't second guess. You should always ask. Yeah.
Right. And that
Yeah.
happens a lot with young people and text messages. Like they'll tell me about an argument and they're going back and forth, and I'll be like, eh, halfway through I realize, I'm like, wait a minute, is this a text argument? I said, no, general rule, in person is best, video if you can't, but text message, because what happens if somebody doesn't answer right away, then the other person starts thinking, oh, they're mad at me, or
Yeah.
something, they read more into it, and maybe the person could have been at a red light and said, "Okay," and then hit the gas and started driving again, and the person reading the "okay" is like, wow, they took a tone with me, why are they mad at me? So
It's weird, isn't it? Because we're in any disagreement, whoever it's with, it's not what the person says, it's why you think they said it. And the you think, that came from you. You could
right.
think whatever you like, but you've decided that it might be that, and it might not be. Strange, isn't it?
I study a lot of John and Julie Gottman's work. I love their work. And they worked with over 3,000 couples over the course of 30, 40 years. And in some cases, they worked with the same couples for 40 years. And they could predict with like 95% accuracy who was getting divorced in a few years based on how they interacted in 5 minutes of conversation. And speaking of building from your experience, John Gottman got into this work because he was unsuccessfully married and in relationships before. And he started to study with a friend to figure out what was going wrong. And then his wife was doing a lot of work in relationships. So anyway, there was a point to this, and it'll come to me. Okay, I lost it. Sorry.
You were talking about people in texting arguments.
Oh, assume. You had said, you assume, but it's coming from you. Part of what they teach is assume that the other person has your best interest at heart. Because a lot of times when people are arguing, they assume that the other person's the enemy. But you can acknowledge, hey, I love you, you love me, we're committed to one another, we will figure this out. But if they're angry with each other, it's not out of spite. It's you actually are trying to do something positive for the relationship. You're just coming at it from different directions. So part of it is assuming that somebody means something positive.
Yeah.
Like a corny example would be if you say to somebody, "Hey, did you go to the gym today?" And it's important to them, and the person says, "Oh yeah, I did. Thanks for asking." Versus, "Why? You think I'm getting fat?"
Yeah. Yeah. So, what does healing really look like in real life?
I think people need the biggest thing is, to ask themselves, do I feel safe with someone? Because safety, emotional and not just physical safety, emotionally safety. Because when it comes down to it, when you trust, there's different aspects of trust: honesty, consistency, transparency. But the point is, it's like you have to trust that person to have your back in the way that you need it, and you need to feel safe. And if you feel emotionally unsafe, that's when things get squirrely. I think understand themselves, because if you don't understand who you are as a person and what your values are, you're going to pick based on possibly superficial things. So get to know yourself, get to be your own best company. Like, would you date yourself? If the answer is no, what needs to change? And I think the biggest thing is sometimes people are either so afraid to be alone that they'd rather be with the wrong person. And there's a lot of stigma still for women. They think there's something wrong with themselves if they're not in a partnership, because society has told them, well, there's something wrong with you if you're not. I don't know if that's the same for men. I don't think I've met men who are lonely who want to meet somebody, but I don't think talked to somebody who said, well, society is telling me, I'm not enough of a man because I'm not married.
Yeah, I think it's much, much easier for blokes. And women are such... But I always think of the blokes were like the real basic version of the human. And the women were the more advanced, more complicated with all the extras, the fully loaded version of the automobile. Yeah.
Human 2.0.
Yeah, I think so.
I think men have different challenges. Like, men are told to be the providers, right? Men are told they can't cry and be sensitive. So depending on the culture, and that's interesting, different cultural context, it has different meaning. So I think men, I'll put in a little defense for the men. They've got their own stuff that society that they have to work through. So
I think we have a much easier time. I wouldn't be a woman for quids. I'd be rubbish at it too. Yeah. Anyway, well, the book answers a lot of these questions. Yeah. It also asks a few questions as well. It's a wonderful book. It's called Heartbreak on a Deadline. If you like reading, then there are reading versions available. Then there is also the ear movie, which is also known as an audiobook. Where the audiobooks are better than movies because the pictures are better. Somebody said that about radio. I forget who that was. I don't think they were talking about modern day radio because, modern day radio, I don't think they use the medium as well as they could. But anyway, that's a whole different issue. Heartbreak on a Deadline. It's now an audiobook. It's narrated by Danielle Palli, the author, best-selling author, and also myself, who does the male characters. We split them. It was all male-female, wasn't it? The whole split. You didn't find yourself doing any of the blokes?
And you did the narration for the third person, because this is the first time I told a story from the point of view of Sibley and Vidalia. So you do the narration, people understand these women are not present. So you had a good shift in the voice. So yes, you did a good bit of the narration as well.
What's next for Danielle Palli?
3 things, and I know I took up so much of your time. I appreciate it. Number 1, I recently went to Italy, and while I was there, every place I went, I was like, I could kill somebody there. Not literally, but I was like, what if there was a dead body there? So anyway, I have a book that is kind of a supernatural mystery suspense. And of course, there's romance because I'm a hopeless romantic. And that will take place in different parts of Italy that I just went to, so I can write from experience. You'll hear about this, Graham, when it's ready. And then the other thing is, at the end of the Heartbreak on a Deadline, I had a dating companion. I'm going to have a longer book version of that, a nonfiction self-help, very approachable, not a lot of science and things, just some approachable stuff for if you're new to dating, when you're in a relationship, things to be aware of to know that you're in a healthy relationship. So 1 self-help, 1 fiction. So I think I've gotten most of the genres covered now. And then the last thing I'm on target to do it. I don't know whether it's going to be this year or next, but I want to start hosting some kind of writing travel group where you go somewhere in the footsteps of somebody famous, like famous author, learn about the history of that person, but also use it as an opportunity to work on your novel in that space.
Nice.
So I don't know
Lovely.
what that's going to look like yet, but that's the one thing I've
Are
said
you
I'm going to do
talking
that I haven't
guided
done.
tours maybe, or group tours or something? Or are you talking people go on their own with a companion guide or something?
I'm talking with somebody who helped me, actually was a travel agent to help me with the tour I went on. So it's probably going to be a hybrid of like a local expert guide, and either a travel agent event planner to coordinate all the logistical stuff that I'm not going to be able to do because I'm not experienced with booking all those different things for multiple people. So they'll streamline the what you do, but I want to go and teach the writing, the coaching, how to develop scenes, how to develop characters. Um, and so it's kind of a hybrid. It's a writing workshop, but I want it to be a little different than we're just going to write about our feelings. I want it to be like, if you're writing a book, it doesn't matter if it's a memoir or a fiction book, like you seriously want to be in the space to get it done, and you want inspiration, it's going to be part, travel, education, and writing. So to be continued how that is going to happen, I have no idea, but that's kind of one of the dreams.
Nice. How can we find out more about you?
You can visit DaniellePalli.com. That's
DaniellePalli.com. There will be a link to that in the description. Also, a link to where you can get the audiobook. Download it now. It's a good listen, but it's a good read too if you'd like to have a read of it. I know because I've read it, but you can, if you don't want to, the great thing about the audiobook, no reading. So check that out as well. Danielle Palli, thank you very much. Always a pleasure.